All right. Okay, recorder's on. I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting. Plenty of room in the front row if you don't want to hide in the back. Oh, well. Jim, you're probably used to that. Okay. All right. Well, if we open with an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. Jim, thank you.
Let's pray. Our loving Heavenly Father, we recognize that in just a moment we're going to pledge allegiance to a flag that represents a great nation. And in that pledge, it says that our allegiance is under you first, that you're in charge. Everything that happens in our county is under your watchful eye and by your consent and for your good and your glory, and we're grateful that it's also for our good. God, thank you for the moisture. Thank you for watching over the farmers in our county. God, we thank you too for these individuals that watch over us and they govern us well. Would you give them wisdom today as they make decisions that affect all of us? God, we do pray again and again for our first responders, who are the first ones to put themselves in harm's way, who protect our families, who protect our property, and who keep watch and keep bad guys at bay and encourage the right. And so, God, would you watch over them today? God, as decisions are made, may we as the residents here be supporters of what takes place that is good and right and just. God, we thank you that at the end of our days, we will have had the opportunity to live in the best place on earth. And so, God, thank you. Thank you, thank you. We thank you, God, also again this day for watching over our souls, for dying for us, for Jesus. We have so many good gifts, and they all come from you, God. Praise your name. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, guys. Okay, the time is now 9:03. Amanda, could you call the roll, please? Here.
Here.
Here. Alrighty. First item we have on is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented with one exception, and that is to move item 2 under action items up to the elected officials, department heads report.
Okay. Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a agenda with one change. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item we have is the consent agenda.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, elected officials, department head, staff reports. Eileen?
Thank you, Commissioners. Eileen Krause, Deputy County Manager. I have just a brief update on our various facilities-related projects. Just wanted to let you all know that we are making good progress on getting the new Health and Human Services building complete and ready to occupy. We have a team that's been meeting every week for the last month or so, and we've had a bunch of work done. We have a contractor on board for the renovations to the old building and some final work relating to the breezeway in between the two buildings and sidewalks and things like that. So just wanted to let you know that we are making some good forward progress on that. Also, our request for proposals for our facilities assessment consultant closed last week. The evaluation team is busy evaluating the proposals that we received. We got a good response. Can't say more because of the confidentiality of the evaluation process, but suffice it to say, we hope to have a contract in place and kick off that project sometime this summer. So that'll be a good step forward. And then finally, we have, as you know, our facilities manager position is vacant right now. We have the position posted and have been getting a great response to that posting. It closes to applications on June 2nd, so there's still time if anybody is interested in applying for that position. And we're scheduled to conduct interviews probably sometime in mid-June. So that's kind of where we stand. A lot of good forward motion.
Okay, thanks. Any questions or?
No?
Thanks. And, oh.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'd just like to report to you that at your request, we have been conducting a search for a hearing officer for our Board of Equalization. That will be coming up in July. I have a verbal agreement with a gentleman that has agreed to do that. He has a lot of experience in the surrounding metro area, and we'll formalize that contract with him. Then I'll let our county attorney take a peek at it, and we'll move forward with that. But he's excited, he's willing to do it, and I think it'll be a great benefit to all parties, and it'll be a much smoother process. So as I was talking to him, the way that he prefers to do things, I think, is a smart one. And so I'll just outline that real quickly with you, because it will require some space probably in this building where we can have some privacy. So what he prefers is to just meet with the petitioner and with one member representing the assessor's office in a closed-door meeting. Each side will have 5 minutes to present their reasonings why they think it should stay the same or it should change. And then each side will have 5 minutes of rebuttal. At that time, he will fill out his paperwork, and we'll move right on to the next one. A much more streamlined process than we've had in the past, which I think is a good thing. Either Amanda or myself will be downstairs or wherever we're doing this to help manage the people that are in next in line, so we can keep that going. And then what will happen is he will compile all the different hearings that come before him into a packet for your alls to look over. And then when we officially convene as the Board of Equalization, then you'll have that information to make your determinations. So I think it'll be a much more streamlined process, and it'll be a good move for the county. Most metro counties do the same process. So I just wanted to share that with you.
When does that begin?
It'll be in the end of July, 24, 25, something like that. We've got 4 days scheduled for that at this point.
And were you able to talk to him about when the recommendations came to us that they just be account numbers, no names? So
We'll put that in there. I've not talked to him since we discussed that last week, but we'll put that in there.
I think that's just a cleaner way.
Yep.
I mean, since we've got
So no name attached
Just
to the
a-
account. It'll just be account number of what it is with the comps and everybody's argument, what his recommendation is, and then you guys can make your decision from that.
okay.
I want to compliment you on doing this, because it will make the process much more, at least optically fair to each and every person that has a question with respect to their assessment.
I think it's a good move.
I do too.
Yeah, I do think just over the years where we now have an assessor's office that's nearly fully licensed, and I think the last person's working on there, unlicensed people looking over their work, you know.
Yeah.
That's just to have a professional appraiser who does this, I think makes sense, so, I thank you. Public Works Week, Christina?
Christina Stanton, Director of CDS, had in my
Kristen, you gotta
notes.
help me. I don't hear very
Sorry,
well.
is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I had in my notes from our last meeting that you wanted to update on the XXNZ. Letters for that went out to the property owners last week. So this week, we have been receiving numerous emails and phone calls from residents trying to figure out what exactly we're looking at doing, and a lot of that is explaining that XX and NZ are not actual zoning districts, and trying to let people know we're trying to give them zoning so they can actually obtain building permits should they want to do anything with their property. We have that scheduled for the June 18th PC and June 26th BoCC.
I haven't read your letter, but I want to compliment you on it because I've had 4 phone calls from people saying it's about time.
We had 96 letters went out of the 148 that I had located, so there's still a handful that are less than an acre that we have to do some research, and those will be coming later this year, but they're going to take a little bit more work to figure out how to treat those particular ones. So we're trying to get the bulk of the ones that are easy to identify acreage and use and correct zoning district.
I didn't make my point properly. It's complimentary to everyone.
Yes, I just wanted to get that out there as well, though. Thank you.
No, it's a decades-old problem, so thanks.
Commissioners, I'll go next. Just an update. We've got some road and bridge guys here, and I kind of wanted them to hear this next piece. One of the things that we've been working on, not on? I'm dead on batteries. One of the things we've been working on is trying to find better gravel and sand and aggregate in the county. This recent event with the wet moisture, again, hits the dirt roads, gravel roads pretty hard. As you know, we've got several pits that we're working them hard. One of the things that we reached out to was the Colorado Geological Survey and asked them to take a look at maybe doing some mapping and finding some additional gravel resources within the county that'll help us with those gravel roads and good bases and getting those built up. So we're in that process. Luckily, I would say through staff perseverance or by blind luck, they were already looking at Elbert County at doing something very similar. So we actually do have a proposal. I haven't had a chance to meet with Public Works yet on it, but it's got 4 tasks. Creation of the geodatabase to contain the geology, historical quarries, and workings permits and other information with respect to aggregate deposits and landforms. A desktop review of and looking at aerials and GIS to look for outcroppings. Task 3 will be the field evaluation. We will also get them in touch with, I told them our best resource would be people that were sitting here around the table and some of the blade operators and some of the other guys are out on the road right now to kind of take a look at where they've seen gravel and rock outcroppings and where it might work. And then task 4 is to put it all into a database that will be complementary with our ArcGIS project, and it'll be easy to find resources in the future. So that project's moving forward, and I thought that was appropriate that these guys hear that as well as you guys hear that. We are trying to find better gravel for the county that's reasonable and cheap and not on the other side of the world.
Yeah, no, that's good. And the cost to us for this study is 0 from what I
Right now, it's 0. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Get them a cup of coffee if we can.
I'm going to try to get them also to grind up all that concrete at the missile silo. No, I'm just,
Please don't.
yeah. Any questions on that?
No, I just want to say that for us that have lived in the county a long time, and you gentlemen that have done all this hard work, we know that everybody knows that we don't have any gravel here. And one of the things that some of us in internal conversations was, how do we know that? There are people that specialize in doing the geological evaluations. And one of the things is we know that most of the ranchers out here have a little gravel pit on their own place. So we know that there's gravel out here. And we also know that geology has a basis. water runs downhill, it brings gravel from the mountains and puts it down in lower spots and things like that. We also know that we've got conglomerate outcrops in several places of the county, so that tells us the rock must have come from somewhere, got there. So it was time, and Eileen was the one that kind of got it. After lots of discussion, is that if we have a study, then we'll know where to go looking, and then we'll know what to do, and we can maybe go and talk to local ranchers, and you know, particularly out in the eastern plains here, most of the land is checkerboarded with state land, and it's pretty easy to get onto state land if you need to do these kind of things. Cutting through the whole story is, once we have a scientific basis for trying to figure out where we're going, we might, notice I used the word might, have positive outcomes. I'm optimistic.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. So,
Public Works,
Public Works.
Rory,
Yeah.
Kyrie.
You're just the photographer today? Hey, Rory.
Now, the first thing you gotta say is we have muddy roads this week.
We have severely muddy roads. Rory Hale, Director of Public Works. Prior to the reading of the proclamation, I want to thank Eileen for putting this together. I invited some of the road and bridge guys here. The rest of them are out toiling away on the roads. Just to kind of recognize them, we've had kind of a rough year.
Yeah.
We didn't anticipate this week's snowfall, but we need the moisture, so I'm not going to introduce all of them. I'll let them introduce themselves if they'd like to. I will point out the foreman. We're minus one foreman, but Ralph, Lewis, obviously you know Monty, superintendent. Jake Waring, he's the culvert projects crew lead. Kenny Denson is the blade foreman. Again, these are some of our guys. I put any of these guys up against any county in the state, hands down. So not to badmouth our neighbors to the south, but yeah, these guys rock it. So
No, it's just tremendous work over the last few years I've been here, and I know you started with, when you came in, I know you were bringing up lunch pails of rock and dirt just about every day that you were looking for, so I'm hoping this study finds some things. But I would let you know, I got a thank you from the school district, Elizabeth School District yesterday for pulling their bus up back onto the road, but their bigger compliment was, I mean, they delayed an hour, but they had one bus that kind of missed the bell by 5 minutes. That was, so they got 600 plus kids to school safely. One little interruption with a slide off, but the work you've done with our local school districts, Elbert and Simla as well as Elizabeth, has just been, the communication's been tremendous, and I thank you, Monty and Rory, and the rest of you for doing that. You know, you're kind of the favorite people for everybody to beat up on, because everybody knows their piece of road. Nobody but you guys know all 1,200 miles of it, so it's interesting when you get a call about how bad a road is and you go out there and it's better than the one I drive at times. So, you know, people's perspective is narrow at times, but with that, I would just say we do have a proclamation, and I'd go ahead and say this is a proclamation entitled National Public Works Week in Elbert County, May 19th to 25th, 2019, and it reads, whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Elbert County, and whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and in the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our county's and nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for citizens, civic leaders, and children in Elbert County, Colorado to gain knowledge of and to maintain interest in and understanding of the importance of public works and the public works programs in our communities. And whereas in addition to maintaining Elbert County's roads, bridges, and other infrastructure in the conditions that citizens expect, our road and bridge employees have been instrumental in responding to emergencies such as the bomb cyclone blizzard event in March of 2019, playing a critical role in keeping traveling public safe and the county's roads passable. And whereas the year 2019 marks the 59th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, now be it resolved by the Elbert County Board of County Commissioners that 1, we hereby designate the week May 19th to 2019 as Public Works Week in Elbert County, Colorado, and 2, we urge all citizens of Elbert County, Colorado to join us in paying tribute to our Elbert County and State of Colorado Public Works professionals, engineers, managers, employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. With no objection, we'll sign this after the meeting and get it published.
I have no objection.
That works.
Okay. Thanks. Any
The one thing the
comments?
proclamation should have included with these gentlemen with all these nice shirts, they're the best dressed people in the county.
So I just want to thank all your guys' efforts and stuff, because I know we've had some weather events this year that we haven't seen it in this county for quite a while, and it definitely is, tasked you guys at times trying to get everything done. So I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah. I mean, it is
I agree with that.
very clear that, generally folks think of you on working roads, but you are first responders. That was clear during the Pine Ridge fire, a lot of the grass fires we have. I mean, I know you had your plows off last week and getting ready to rebuild roads for the summer and had to kind of reverse course. So I do thank you for all you do, and I just ask everybody to join me in a round of applause for the folks that are here. And please, Rory, if you could pass that along to the rest of your crews too. Thanks. Alrighty, thank you guys.
We've got a budget cycle coming.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, thank you. Alrighty, moving on to action items.
We got
Oh, I'm
citizen
sorry,
comments.
I jumped way down, didn't I?
If you guys want to stick around,
Yeah.
you can. If you want to bail, now's the time.
Yeah.
I need to stand up and mess up, but we got work to do.
Alrighty, yeah,
Thanks, guys.
thank you much.
Commissioner, I don't know if there's any other elected officials or reports.
Pretty much everybody that's left has talked, so. Oh, yeah, yeah, okay. Alrighty, glad to have you here. Alrighty, next item we have actually is the open public comment. If anybody's got anything that's not going to be discussed on the agenda today, now is the time. Susan?
Susan Schick, 4122 Downrest Ride. It's like a snake in your face. I was wondering about the relatively recent expenditure I've seen on the county, the vendor payment, the monthly vendor payments list. That's a $672 a month payment we're making to the Prairie Times I guess it's for the Elbert County connection that comes from the county. And I'm wondering why we're making that expenditure when we have a perfectly fine website that we could put that information on.
Well, not everybody has perfectly fine internet service, and quite a few people would debate whether it's a perfectly fine website. It's part of our overall communications plan for the county. So,
Okay.
thanks. All right, moving on. First discussion item. This is the commercial vehicle Model Traffic Code Ordinance. This will be considered our first reading of this proposed update to the overall ordinance. It has been published in the paper, I understand, and these are, as a traffic ordinance, it's one that we consider necessary for the immediate preservation of public health and welfare. I'd actually invite either the attorney or sheriff if there's anything you'd like to add on this. I know we discussed it at the last meeting, but.
Good morning, Commissioner. Sheriff Tim Norton. We're asking that this move forward with the upcoming road traffic and the heavy commercial vehicle population coming through the county. This is not only going to be for safety reasons with the large amount of number of commercial vehicles, but also for our roads. With all these heavy loads, you're going to start seeing the deterioration of our pavement roads, especially on Elbert Road and 86 coming through town up here and Kiowa Bennett Road. So this is, and we're already noticing some of the damage being caused on Elbert Road because of the trucks.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to move forward with this so we can start enforcing this to hopefully put a curtail to a little bit, but also hopefully we don't have any major accidents involving the heavy load trucks.
Like I said, after the accident up on I-70.
Yes, sir. And we also had the one over the fatality on Delbert and County Line Road. Even though the truck wasn't at fault, he still was out of policy and out of compliance, so he was also cited for his safety violations and his weight.
Okay. And this might be I'm not sure which person this would be a question for, but I noticed that there's a statement that this may be utilized within the incorporated towns with an agreement with the towns. I'm not sure if we enforce that or they just agree that we enforce within their towns.
We certainly have the opportunity to do so here in Kiowa.
Okay.
We've already ironed that agreement out within our recent IGA, and I think that's really what that speaks to primarily.
Okay.
But of course, I don't think it's a secret that some roads within the county are surreptitiously used to bypass, way stations and that sort of thing. This should really help us move forward in combating that issue, and it certainly is a safety issue.
Okay. Yeah, I would just kind of ask that, since the language is there, that we can enforce with their agreement, if you'd reach out to Elizabeth and Simla, so,
Yes, sir.
when we do consider final adoption, if they're on board,
Yes,
we can
sir.
do all that at once.
Yes, sir.
If you take a minute and explain how this process works, we said that this is the first reading, just explain to the public how the process works.
Well, there's many things that can happen during the course of drafting and adoption of an ordinance, but typically, and I think this is the track that we're taking, is you've got a first reading, which is where we're at right now. People have had the opportunity to take a look because it's been published and noticed as to what the language of that ordinance is, and then after your first reading, we're going to be setting it forward to our next available meeting. Again, people have an opportunity, if they haven't already reviewed that ordinance, to take a look at that.
2 readings.
Correct. It should be, theoretically, it may be adopted at the next meeting that we have on this particular subject at the second reading. And as a result of designating this ordinance as necessary for immediate preservation of public health, safety, and welfare, those are the magic words, it should be able to take immediate effect, something that can be immediately enforced by the Sheriff's Department, or Sheriff's Office, I should say.
No. Okay. Any public comment on this item? Okay. Seeing none, well, now we'll move on to action items. The first item we've got is approval of the May 8th, 2019 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the May 18, 2019 minutes as written and dispense with the reading of those minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve minutes from the May 8th meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, we had struck number 2, or we've already handled number 2. Next item we have is the Kiowa Elbert County Law Enforcement Agreement, IGA.
Commissioner Sam Albrecht, County Manager, and I'll call on the sheriff to see if he wants to add anything after this brief summary. In late March, the town of Kiowa asked if the sheriff's office would pick up law enforcement activities within the town limits during regular business hours. Of course, we've always covered Kiowa during after hours and weekends. We said yes and that we would work out the details later. We had several meetings with elected officials here and from the town of Kiowa, in addition to staff and attorneys. And we did finally come up with an IGA that has some what we will do and what we expect out of that agreement. So we are providing law enforcement for the town of Kiowa. Their top priorities was to take a look at truck traffic going through the town, and number one priority was to make sure the school zone stayed safe and make sure people followed the speed limit up there. So we are doing that. The sheriff's office immediately started doing extra loops through town, both before and after shifts and as a part of their regular routines. The IGA is fairly simple to understand. It's through the end of the year with an options to continue. $40,000 will be paid by the town of Kiowa for the rest of this year. They will also continue, the town of Kiowa will continue to pay their 911 dispatch fee, and they will also pay their victim advocates fee. That was a part of previous agreements. With that said, I attended the Kiowa Town Hall on the 14th, I believe, and presented the same information on behalf of the sheriff and staff and answered questions, and they unanimously approved the IGA at their meeting. So the signed copy is in the packet and here for your signature today. Sheriff, anything you want to add to that?
No, sir, you covered it all.
Thank you.
I don't have any comments. I know some of the citizens in Kiowa are concerned about law enforcement and everything, so I think this one was just basically trying to, get things started and get them helped out with some of their budget issues for this year, and then negotiated, a higher price and everything for next year. And it does give them the option down the road with 60 days notice if they wanted to reinstate their police department. So they're trying to work out their situation at this time.
Yeah, the only additive comment I have is that to the extent that there might be ticket income within the town boundaries, that would go to the county.
Correct, and we're going to provide reports to the town of Kiowa on a quarterly basis as far as the number of tickets we write in town and what that kind of revenue generates, and as just so that we, in the spirit of transparency, we all know what each other is, doing and making on top of this on this agreement. The original discussion asked about whether or not we could station a deputy in the town, and both the sheriff and I said, we're stretched pretty thin. It's a big county. We've got limited staff. We can't dedicate a full-time deputy to the town limits to write tickets into municipal court. We don't want to treat Kiowa any different than we treat the rest of the county, and that was, both the sheriff and I were pretty adamant about that, and it worked out fine in fact, Commissioner Pettit's right. There was concerns about starting a police department in the future, and I said, yeah, as soon as you guys are ready, let us know. We'll make that work. There was concerns about response time, and I said, it's not going to be any different than you had before on weekends and late nights. It's, we have a limited number of deputies around the county, but during business hours, we're lucky because headquarters is right here. The loss of municipal court revenue was a big concern to them. They are struggling, I think, with budget issues, and so I think that providing these reports will help them also look at their future budgeting also.
Yeah, I guess the kind of our priority and our authorities are generally life, health, safety items. I do appreciate the work with the town to make this a relatively cost-neutral issue for us. And I know, Tim, you were going to be collecting data throughout the year to see whether we're ahead or behind before the...
We already got programs in place for keeping track.
Yeah, thank you. And
We also reached out, commissioners, to State Patrol. I think Sheriff Norton reached out to State Patrol, and I have seen a lot more State Patrol running up and down 86 and even looping through town. They looped through here a couple times, and so I'm hitting my brakes a little more than I used to.
yeah, and it does look like it doesn't degrade your ability to cover the unincorporated parts of the county, so I think that's all good. I guess before we take a motion on this, is there any public comment on this IGA? Okay, seeing none, I'd accept a motion to approve.
I'll move that we approve the Kiowa Elbert County Law Enforcement IGA.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve the IGA between us and the town of Kiowa. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Alrighty, next we're moving on to a resolution and a letter clarifying non-regulation of oil and gas well sightings.
Bart Greer, County Attorney. I can speak to this issue, and we already spoke about it fairly extensively at the last meeting. As almost everybody is aware, this last session of the legislature changed some of the regulations associated with oil and gas. Essentially what we are doing is in response to those updates. Really, for all practical purposes, does not change anything for the county. It simply is really a definitional clarification of Elbert County regulations. And so just kind of in the interest of more transparency and clarification so that everybody knows going forward what the regulations mean. This is important for that. And so we're simply sending a letter to the state which clarifies again that Elbert County is not regulating the siting of oil and gas wells. So that will help clarify things for landowners, for those who may prospectively be looking at oil and gas extraction, and it certainly will help the state understand what our regulatory scheme is here within the county. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just kind of one adding thing there. Everything you said is right. The one thing though is that this doesn't allow people to put oil and gas wells wherever they want. It just means that we're deferring to state regulations.
That's correct. There's pretty extensive state regulations that are more extensive now after this last legislative session, that everyone who is going to be operating in the county is going to have to comply with.
No, and that was an emphasis in oil and gas symposium that I went to from the people from the state, that they were going to need clarification on if someone was putting a permit in, that if they already had one in, that they were going to have to go to a government agency and get it clarified on whether they were going to control the well sites and things like that. And they recognized that a lot of places did not have the expertise to do it themselves. So this is mainly trying to help the process rather than everybody coming back every time to the county to see whether we were going to be doing well sightings. It just goes to the state, and they've got it in their records and how to move forward.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, I mean, as Bart said, it's kind of a restatement of the status quo. We've never regulated the siting of drill sites. The state's current rule until or unless changed by the new Oil and Gas Commission. Under 181's always been 500 feet to 1,000 feet for, in special circumstances. I don't see the state reducing that under 181. Proposition 112 was put on the ballot last year. You know, that, to increase setbacks tremendously. That failed statewide by 10%. Locally, it failed by over 45%. So clearly the folks in the county don't have any tremendous interest in increasing setbacks. So I think just a restatement of the status quo and allowing folks that are going before the commission to have, you know, they need to be able to meet the language of 181, which does clearly state that if a county does regulate siting, they need to bring something forward that says we're meeting their requirements for siting, or something that says the county they're operating in does not. So this just clarifies we do not. So I would take any public comment on this issue before a motion's made.
Thank you for clarifying that a little bit, but I think I still have some questions. I'm not completely familiar with Senate Bill 181. I mean, I haven't studied it closely. So let's say the residents of the county decided they wanted to have a say-so in the siting of oil wells. Does this preclude that from happening? How would we go about?
If the residents decided, I mean, you petition your local government, that would be us.
But it seems that the state has offered us the opportunity to have more control, and that's what many people across the state really want. The whole thing, the whole issue is about where you put the oil and gas wells and the drilling. That's the whole crux of the fight. So it seems to me that commissioners are taking a stance, assuming that the citizens of the county are very happy with a 500-foot setback or a 1,500-foot setback, depending on the, you know, I think it's 500 for one and 1,500 feet for close to residences and populated areas.
181 is that if you've read it as I have, it's confusing. And part of the issue has a clarification of the siting issue, but more importantly, it's going to take about a year or thereabouts, because the Oil and Gas Commission is going to be completely changed. And it's going to, 181 dictated the people that were eligible to participate in that board. So until we see how that evolves, I think it's premature for us to get too adamant about what we should do as a county.
And
one thing is that the mineral owners do have, in my mind, do have some property rights, so we have to recognize that. And right now, we don't have any active permits that are being applied for. In last October, there were some spacing units that were approved by in the county by the state, but there is no building permits that have been applied for. So the frame of reference that you're trying to get us to focus on, I think is premature.
So just from my perspective, I think there's some important points that may shed some light on those questions. And I think it's clear that if someone owns all of the mineral rights that go along with their property, they have control over whether there's going to be extraction or not. The other thing is the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission has the opportunity for public comment as well. So that would be one avenue that could be approached. Additionally, with regard to consensus within the county, I think Commissioner Richardson did note that the issue of additional setbacks was on the ballot, and it was resoundingly defeated. So that's a pretty good measure of where the consensus is within the county. Finally, I would note that we're not out of compliance with state regulations. Everybody is going to have to comply with at least the state regulations, which are pretty extensive in regards to oil and gas extraction within the county.
That sounded like a, never mind.
Yep.
Well, I'd like just to be on record that I'm pretty much opposed to this. I don't see the necessity of taking this step. I read it as a political trying to put a political kibosh on putting further restrictions on oil and gas development. So I do agree that we'll have to wait and see what happens with the new regulations that come forth, and they might, increase the setbacks there in that regard. But, and then just a paperwork cleanup on the agenda packet, the staff report for this particular item, the staff summary dated May 8th. It says it talks about the purpose of the clarification with regards to the zoning regulations, but under key points, under key point 1, it talks about the MTC commercial vehicle assets and the enforcement of commercial vehicles. I think it was just a, a
Just a
copy
cut
and
and paste,
paste
yeah.
error. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty.
So do we need
A motion? Yeah.
I move that we adopt the resolution and letter clarifying non-regulation of oil and gas well sightings.
I'll second.
All right. Have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as presented and the letter clarifying our county's non-regulation of sighting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. We have a couple of public hearings for liquor licenses.
I guess we need to open.
Yeah. if we could open.
I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing for the special event liquor permit for Elbert Town Committee, Elbert Days.
Okay, we have a second.
I second.
Okay, motion and a second to open public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. I take a motion to consider approval of the liquor permit for the Elbert Town Committee, Elbert Days.
I move that we approve the special event liquor permit for the Elbert Town, Elbert Days.
I'll second. Do we need staff report or anything on that?
Yeah, I guess now we're open if we got anything you'd like to.
I don't have anything to add other than what's in the staff summary. Do you have any questions for me?
No, it's pretty much what they've been doing every year
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Do we have any public comment on this? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. We already have a motion and a second on the table, so all in favor of approving the license, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Take a motion to close public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing on the special event liquor permit for the Elbert Town Committee.
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second to close public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Last action item we've got is another public hearing for the Elizabeth Rodeo
We
Stampede.
need to reopen a new.
Yeah, so we'll
Okay.
need to reopen.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open a public hearing for the consideration of a special event liquor permit for the Elizabeth Rodeo Association.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second to open public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. I guess I kind of jumped the gun with the motion last time, so.
That's okay.
Anything special this year for?
No, this isn't special. You did approve earlier the Elizabeth Stampede.
Pede, this is-
Special event liquor. This is the community rodeo that's before
The
the
week prior,
Stampede. So
okay.
it's just, same,
So it's a separate
Thing.
event.
but separate, yes.
Yeah, same organization. Okay. Do we have any public comment on this application? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment. I'd accept a motion to approve the community rodeo liquor permit.
I move that we approve the special event liquor permit for the Elizabeth Rodeo Association Community Rodeo.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the permit. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Take a motion to close public hearing.
I move that we close public hearing on liquor license issues.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second to close public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Amanda, are we good? Thank you. All righty, next item, board planning for our next meeting. Guess we'll do our second reading on the MTC. Any, our standard items for the first meeting of the month?
And in addition to that, Commissioners will have a briefing from staff from the United States Geological Survey. They recently issued a report relating to groundwater elevations in the Denver Basin aquifers in Elbert County. And they'd like to come and give you a overview of that report, which fits in with some of the conversations that we're having about growing water smart and water issues here in the county. So they are scheduled to come in at our
Now,
June
that's the
12th.
study that we've been paying for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that's the well
It's kinda-
monitoring.
Yes.
Correct.
Good. All righty. Anything else big, I think, okay. All righty. I'm sure we'll have some more things to fill in, but,
I may have some more information here. Bear with me for just a second.
okay.
And I'll pull up the June 12th. We have some server issues in the clerk's office, so,
okay.
let's see. Yeah, that looks like everything that is loaded up for
Okay.
that meeting at this point, other than regular business.
There's a work study session scheduled for June 11th,
Okay.
on the
Budget. Oh, the audit. Yes,
Audit,
the
yeah,
auditors will be in
okay.
to brief you on their results.
All righty. And then, if we could, I guess at that meeting, our regularly scheduled meeting, just an update of where we are in the budget cycle for this year in terms of getting worksheets out. And appreciate it. Okay.
Will
Anything?
we be ready, Christina, for action on the XX zoning, or will that be the following meeting?
That'll be the following. Right now, I think we may have a variance, it'll be on the 612. Remember, we had 2 of them in the works, and I think one of them didn't have anything, and so that one's being pushed down, so there's, and I have a site plan for one of the EDZ applications that may be ready. I'm trying to iron out with one of the referral agencies if they're have additional comments or not.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we are in recess until land use hearings at 1 p.m. at this location. Thanks for.